What up, guys? Today we're going to talk about something near and dear to me, gangsta rap. You know, gangsta rap wasn't always a thing. Like, it wasn't actually the predominant form of rap music when I was growing up. That was more in the 90s. And believe it or not, before the revolution of gangsta rap, and while it was on the scene, a lot of people had a lot of problems with it. A lot of those people were black people. Reasons being the same shit we're talking about today. And I'd like to watch this video and react with you guys, so you can see that, like, not everybody was always down with gangster rap, and the society and culture we live in today was very, very different in the 90s, when people still had opinions about things that mattered. Check it out. Dude, this was, I don't care, like, this was a great song. I got grounded for an entire summer for having this tape. Ice-T, OG Original Gangsta. I know all the words to this song. This is New Jack Hustler. Great song, horrible message. The whole song is basically about being a drug dealer and just creating mayhem in the community and getting people addicted to crack. So let's keep going.
That's what's called gangsta rap.
Hustler.
Hardcore, street-tough lyrics of Los Angeles-based groups like Ice-T and Niggers with Attitude, or NWA.
Yeah.
Their angry style, with its racial slurs, deliberately shocking lyrics, and brutal images of life in South Central LA, have stirred controversy even as they have sent rap sales soaring.
I'm a nigga in America, and that much I flunk. When I see what I like, yo, I take what I want. I'm not the only one, that's why I'm not bitter. Cause everybody is a nigga to a nigga.
Ice-T's single, Cop Killer, even sparked a national protest. But cops were not the only objects of derision. Women were too.
Ah, yes. So when they started calling women bitches in every song, that wasn't always a thing either. Like, this was unheard of at the time, and people were losing their minds. And a lot of those people, believe it or not, were black people.
More controversy was sparked by the frequent use of words like bitch and whore. Still, gangsta rap continued to sell.
Dr. Dre?
This song by Dr. Dre currently ranks among the top-selling albums. To its supporters, gangsta rap is a form of social protest, a kind of street theater, the heartbeat of urban America. But to its critics, it is simply an attempt to manipulate racist stereotypes for profit, to sell records.
Dude, they sold a lot of, not records, it was tapes at the time. This was back in the tape days. I mean, some people had CDs, but we mostly had tapes. And I had dubs of this one. This was a great tape. And see, the problem with rap music, as the problem with all music, is that the messages in it aren't really the greatest. Until like a white in the suburbs isn't gonna do anything to you except maybe make you look a little ridiculous. If you're a black kid growing up in the hood, this is actually like a thing. What's glorified? Drug dealing, pimping, you know, smacking women. This was like a thing that was black culture being introduced to white culture. That's why it's had a far more detrimental effect on black people than it has on white people. And that's why the people that were speaking out against this the loudest at the time were black people, not white people. It was black people.
I strongly believe that it is our Christian, moral, and social responsibility to speak out against evil forces.
It is that opposition that is creating the first real backlash to the music. A backlash born in the same place that gave birth to rap, the black community. Recently, opponents of hardcore rap gathered at New York City's Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem to say, enough is enough.
It is not all right for our black male children to grow up and be drug dealers, gang bashers, or stick-up kids.
I don't know what a gang basher is. I think she meant gang bangers. But either way.
But your negative lyrics and videos are telling them that it's all right.
Many of those who came to protest were primarily middle-class adults, educated working people, and parents who were insulted by the negative stereotypes of blacks portrayed in the rap lyrics.
But negative rap is a slap in our faces. It lets everybody know to a certain extent that we as black people must have low self-esteem, no respect for ourselves or anyone else, and we just don't care who we hurt in the dollar.
I've had to endure that ugly N-word for some 400 years.
This dude's a senator now, by the way. Like, dude, look, here's my thing on N-word, okay? You didn't endure it for 400 years, all right? And it's in every rap song. That's why the argument like against it is so difficult because it's in every single rap song. And what a lot of people, younger people today, don't get is that it wasn't always that way. Wasn't always that way.
Is now, and enough is enough.
Look at him looking like Steve Urkel.
Black women have been the objects of too much violence.
I think he was I think he actually had charges against him for domestic abuse. You know, he is a pastor. He's going to be up there lying. But I'm positive that this guy would not speak out against rap music the same way today because he himself has been brainwashed by the culture, by the music, by the nonsense that's promulgated and put out. Guarantee you, if he even remembers this, he would take back every word except for the whole N-word thing.
They've been the objects of too much abuse and too much misuse, and enough is enough.
I believe he's one of them that's misusing them.
The protest was organized by Abyssinian Baptist pastor Reverend Calvin Butts. Reverend Butts argues that he is not against all rap, just that which denigrates blacks through words and images. That rap, he says, casts a shadow on all blacks.
This is not a place, as one young woman stood up and said once, where I hear people being called bitches and whores around every corner and MFs. It's not. It's not like that in Oakland. It's not like that in L.A. There is some of it, but the world must not understand that that is who we are. We are not that.
We will not stand for the vile, ugly, low, crime, abusive, and rough music.
Until now, most blacks in leadership positions have refrained from criticizing such a popular form of black expression and protest. When Reverend Butts finally spoke out, it was clear outside the church that he had struck a nerve. The streets of Harlem came alive with debate in a way not heard since the protest era of the 60s.
You all can do better, and you ought to do better. I think that goes for everybody. That goes for everybody. I ask you this question. We don't embrace white culture.
You all are not talking to one another. You're talking past one another.
Because she never listened.
No minds were changed, but the issue was now out in the open, and people were debating it as never before.
I'm here because I'm outraged at the denigration of black women. And as a father, as a son, my mother, my sisters, our wives, our girlfriends have been denigrated, and these are against the values of our community.
Others argued that if Reverend Butts was going after anyone, it should have been the record companies themselves, that negative rappers were merely telling it like it is.
We're coming from our community. We are not talking bad things like bang, bang, shoot 'em up because we want to. This is what we live. I would love to talk about blue skies and apple pies, but I can't. That's not where I live. I live here where I see babies having babies. I see pregnant mothers using drugs. This is what I talk about.
Only a few blocks away, in a very different atmosphere, teenagers were also talking about rap music.
Come one, come all, except the Haitians with the hips. Though you're sailing for your life, the question is who really gives up.
This is a rap workshop at New York's Riverside Church. Here, another minister, the Reverend Mariah Britton, is taking a different approach, trying to use rap as a positive force to develop the writing talents of these teenagers. These young men and women don't use obscene language or condone violence in their own lyrics, but they echoed the arguments of many of those who defended rap during Reverend Butts' protests.
I think, the language used by rappers just pretty much reflects how people feel in life. So you're pretty much just saying whatever comes to mind and how you feel. And if you feel like cursing because of the situation you see, that just happens.
Like Jay said, it's just a reflection of the times. This is harsh times now. So there's going to be a harsh music. So if you don't understand it, you're not really understanding what today is all about.
These aspiring rappers, the negative messages in some songs are no worse than in other entertainment
Damn, look
media.
at those earrings.
But what about your integrity? What about what you stand for as a human being? Are you swayed more by the desire to make money and to sell the records? Or are you led by your sense of integrity?
Bottom line is it's entertainment.
See, that's where this whole thing goes off the rails, because what was promoted by the record companies obviously is the most degenerate shit in the world. All right, and that was not an accident. That was not an accident. Just like the whole welfare thing in the 60s was get the man out of the house. The degenerate part of it is what sells, because that's what the record companies were selling and promoting. See, people are very easily swayed into shit, right? So they could have just as easily found rappers that were rapping about, like, getting out of there, about bettering their lives, about rejecting that culture. And what did they do? They found rappers that were embracing that culture, and as a result, you have more cultural degeneracy. You have more cultural breakdown. It was done on purpose. And if you put it to catchy music and you get people singing along, you're kind of brainwashing yourself with those lyrics. And it's going to hit differently if you're living in the hood versus if you're living in the suburbs. It's just the way it is. It's the way that people work. All right? You become a product of your environment, and you become influenced by things that you're listening to. Everything you're listening to, whether you know it or not, on a conscious or subconscious level, affects what you act out in the world. Now, why don't you see a bunch of white guys doing drive-bys? Because it ain't happening in our communities. But if you go into the hood and you're glorifying drive-bys and you're talking about them all the time and that's what you're hearing on your music, you're gonna get more of it. You know, I wonder why they don't ever do experiments in a positive direction, because that's very much what this was an experiment on people. As you can see, there was a large constituency of black people rejecting this. But that didn't matter, because the record companies were going to promote it, they were going to push it, they were going to sell it. So much like a drug dealer, they sold you gangsta rap. And gangsta rap, I don't think it's done anything positive for the black neighborhoods. I really don't. We don't know what the other side looks like because, well, they're never willing to promote the other side. Could have completely different outcomes than we do today. We'll never know because the record companies will never push it. Because whatever the mainstream culture is pushing lately is crap, all right? Mainstream culture in America, their primary motivation is moral degeneracy. It's societal decay. It's societal degeneracy. And people will say, well, that's just a reflection of what they're seeing. Whatever. They're not pushing a way out of it. They're pushing a way deeper into it. They're pushing the normalization of things like that. Now, you hear that word an awful lot, normalization. And the way that things are today isn't the way that things were when I was growing up. They've become that way, and there's been an evolution to it. And yes, it's happened quickly, but things were very, very, very different 40 years ago than they are today. I'm not saying rap music gets all the blame, but they got to bear some of the blame. No. I mean, it was on constantly. Still is on constantly. What's the messaging that you hear in it? You are subjected to that messaging whether you like it or not. You're not just a passive listener. You're a receiver for these messages. So you're dancing to the beat with these lyrics in the background. They're getting into your head. They're programming you. That's how you are being programmed. It's not a white thing or a black thing. It's how people work. It's how people work.
In the same way, you have to, like, that'd be like asking an actor, or like asking Sylvester Stallone, well, how do you really feel about the way you're portraying people in Vietnam as just, you know, bloodthirsty killers, going around shooting people? Probably wouldn't have a second thought about that because, you know, he doesn't really probably know the first thing about Vietnam.
Despite the gentle coaxing of Reverend Britton, these young people were reluctant to admit there was anything wrong with hardcore rap. Mike Abbott, an independent record promoter who was invited to speak to the students, says as long as that attitude prevails, negative rap will continue to sell.
Record companies have been guilty in putting out too much of the negative rap, but those decisions are based on what they feel will sell in the marketplace. It's a catch-22. If you put out garbage and the customer responds to garbage, you keep putting it out.
It's been suggested that what appeals to both black and white teenagers is hardcore rap's anti-establishment, anti-authoritarian messages. But some psychologists suggest that the appeal for white males, the group that buys the most CDs, goes beyond teenage rebelliousness. They argue that the appeal to that group stems from the validation of their worst stereotypes about black people. For the congregation of Abyssinian Baptist Church,
yes, blaming white people for buying rap music. That's rich. That's rich. Is it true? Yeah. So maybe all white people should boycott rap. And then if you do that, well, you're a bigot for boycotting the music. You see, there's no winning for anybody in this battle.
That notion fuels much of the drive against gangster rap.
You gotta admit, though, New Jack Hustler is better than this song they're putting out right now. Like, there are other rappers out there that have a positive message. I don't know how much traction they get, but I know there's one dude, it's a little bit like too pro-MAGA, if you ask me. A dude named Bryson Gray, but he's good. He's good, and he doesn't cuss at all. There's NF, he's a white guy, doesn't use any profanity in any of his lyrics. He's a Christian, and he's good. So, like, that stuff does exist. It's just that the degenerate stuff appeals to a lot of people for some reason. Probably because it's pretty mindless, and you don't have to think too much. And there's not a lot of words, not a whole lot of words. Good, catchy beat, you know? I mean, black people, really, if you want the N-word to go away, you gotta stop using it all the time in every single rap song. Just calling it like it is. It's in, like, every freaking song. Like, how do you square that up? That's just our word? Well, yeah. You put it in all your rap music, and white people are the number one people that buy it. If your goal is to not get white people to say the N-word, well, you're doing a terrible job of making that a reality.
Abyssinian Baptist Church has been involved in the black struggle for equality for decades. Upstairs, the Adam Clayton Powell Room pays tribute to the church's former minister turned congressman. Old press clippings chronicle important civil rights victories. Here, the street language used by many rappers evokes images through words that civil rights protesters like Adam Clayton Powell fought to bury.
I understand anger, I understand frustration, but brother, if your back is burdened by the whip of white racism, and you're taking it out on the black woman, then your anger and your frustration, though it may be legitimate, it is misguided and misdirected.
Well, who do you suggest that you guide it at? Because that, to me, sounds like, hey, you ought to be attacking white people. That's a pretty terrible message to spread in the church. How about something a little bit more positive there, Rev? And you can see why this guy's a senator. Because he's playing the race game. He wants black people to hate white people. And instead of beating their wives, go out and beat a bunch of white people like you just saw in Cincinnati this weekend. So, no, actually the way to deal with all of this crap is to go out, get a job, and try and improve your community and stop blaming everybody else for your own freaking problems. But that's why this guy's a senator and I'm not. Because it sells. It's the easy answer. That's why I hate Reverend Warnock. I think he is terrible. I think he spreads a terrible message. Blame Whitey for all your problems. You know, for as long as I've been alive, that's been the sentiment, and it doesn't seem like things are getting better for you, so maybe try a different shtick.
Reverend Butts hopes that protests like these and the media coverage they generate will eventually make an impression on the rappers and cause them to change their negative vocabulary.
We're not saying that they can't make it. They have every right in the world to make it. What we're saying is that we hope to create a climate in our community that we believe once existed, where this kind of thing is so intolerable that people would dare not suggest that a black woman is a bitch or any woman is a female dog.
Negative rap is not all right. Negative rap is not all right.
Since Reverend Butts launched his protest this...
Yo, you think anything like this would happen today? There's not a chance in hell. There's not a chance in hell. All the people that would be protesting it would be called Uncle Toms or sellouts. That's what would happen today. And anybody that was white that spoke out against it would be called racist. And that's how the game is played. Because a lot of this is a race hustle. And it's pathetic, and it ain't gonna stop. Because there's a lot of money behind it. Follow the freaking money.
Summer, many other spiritual leaders have followed in Detroit, Dallas, and Los Angeles. All challenging, not rap, but negative lyrics. A New York appearance by Los Angeles rapper Dr. Dre has reportedly been indefinitely postponed. It remains to be seen whether Dr. Dre, the other hardcore rappers, and their record companies will in fact hear the protest and change their tune.
It's never gonna happen, all right? Not in my lifetime, at least. Rap is gonna stay the same degenerate, crappy music that promotes nothing but horrible crap, all right? Unless you listen to like Bryson Gray, unless you listen to NF, unless people reject and abandon it in mass, which probably, let's be realistic, guys, ain't gonna happen. My name's Case. This is Systemic Caseism. Peace out.